On September the 11th this year, between the forces of England, led by the Earl of Surrey, and the forces of Scotland, led by a commoner called William Wallace. And I ken, because I fought here with William Wallace at the Battle of Stirling Bridge, but not for glory, not for gold. I fought to free this country, and in doing so I was obliged to throw out the English. We were occupied by England then, and England was governed by a very, very strong king, a very ambitious and ruthless man, Edward I. But to understand why we were occupied by the English, you have to understand a wee bit of the history, boys. You see, 10 years before this battle, our king was Alexander III of that name. He was a good king and Scotland prospered. He was also very friendly with Edward of England, and he married his sister, the Princess Margaret of England, so everybody was happy. Then things started to go wrong, my friends. Queen Margaret died when she was very young. Hard on the heels of the death of his young queen, Alexander's two sons died, the princes, David and Alexander, the predeceased their father. His daughter Margaret, she married Eric II of Norway, but she died very young as well, not long after giving birth to a daughter called Margaret. Is everybody staying with me so far? Yeah. All we need to do, boys, is remember his little granddaughter in Norway, because the other two are dead. So, Alexander remarried. But this time he didn't marry into the English royal family. No, he married into the court of France. He married a very beautiful French girl, Yolande, the Countess of Dreux. But not long after they were married, Alexander had occasion to be at a meeting in Edinburgh with his nobles. And his new bride would be about 40 miles along that river down there, the River Forth, in a place called Kinghorn by the sea. After the meeting, Alexander's reputation for hospitality was legendary. We all had a little glass too many, boys, you know what I mean. So we didn't drink a lot of whiskey then. We drank a lot of wine. French wine, and plenty of it. Alexander the King, after a wee glass of wine too many, led by his heart, ladies, rather than his counsel, decides to cross the river and see his new, beautiful French bride. What man amongst us would not do the same? He crossed the river, but when he got to this side, he rode away ahead of his companions, and he was lost, but they found his body the next morning, lying dead on the beach at Kinghorn, flung from his horse off the cliffs. The last of the great Celtic kings is dead. Because when Alexander died, he was the first king of this nation for many years to die with no sons, nor had he named a male heir. Well, these are dangerous times. Meetings were held with Edward of England, Eric of Norway, and eventually it was decided that precedence would be given to the law of primogeniture. Primogeniture, which I'm sure you're all acquainted with, of course. Close, sir, you're nearly a light in a dark place. I thought I'd stumbled upon the heathen for a moment. The firstborn by degree, sir, indeed. The light we have here. Yes, that means his little granddaughter Margaret. Do you remember her?
Yeah.
No, you do. She's up in Norway. She's about 7. She's to be brought back and looked after till she's old enough to be the Queen. Which will be very interesting, ladies, because we've never had one of them before. Do you take my meaning?
Yeah, somewhat.
I'm saying that they're going to put a woman on the throne of Scotland. Has the world gone mad? As if things weren't bad enough, boys, But before you condemn me, missus, hear my case. Now, down in England, my wee friend, this Edward, they call him the Long Shanks. Do you know why that is? No. Well, it's because he's a tall man. The gentleman's quite tall. He's got long legs, and so they call him Long Shanks, you see. Long Shanks. So you must be Short Shanks. Just for today. He's already taken Wales and Ireland. He's taken a third of France. With Alexander dead, he believes Scotland could be his. But does it not suit him? I've got a full prop here. Does it not suit him to have a little girl sitting on the throne instead of a strong king? Of course it does. He also says, when the little girl returns from Norway, she be promised in marriage to my son, Edward, the Crown Prince of England, now Edward, the very first English Prince of Wales. So by this token, he thought he would take Scotland, but it never happened, my dear. The little girl was on a boat between the island of Orkney and the mainland of Scotland, but she suddenly fell very ill. Very ill indeed. Some men said she died of a mysterious disease, other men say different. Well, I say this, boys, what does it matter what men say? because she's dead. And that's the end of it. Now that she's dead, that's the end of the House of Canmore. They ruled this country for more than 240 years. We need a new king. How do we choose? By the law of Tanistry. Bloodlines to King David I. That meant 13 men claiming the throne of Scotland. Chaos. The nobles of Scotland are able to make their mind up, decided to go and ask the assistance of their good friend and ally, Edward of England, as a good ally just now. And after a number of meetings, it was decided, for reasons beyond my simple mind, that Edward of England should name the King of Scotland. To show impartiality, you understand, lest there be civil war. And so it was. Edward of England was to name the king. Everybody knows that Robert the Bruce should be named king. It's his right. Edward of England doesn't want Robert the Bruce because he's too strong. He wants a weak king. So he chooses the weakest competitor. Your king will be John Balliol, the Lord of the Galloways. John Balliol? Long live King John! Right, Balliol might be my king, but who will be Balliol's king? Edward of England. He swears allegiance. Not long after being made king, he was ordered to raise an army to fight against France. We refused. We'll not fight with France. We have a concordia with the French, an entente cordiale, the old alliance. When Edward of England heard this, he attacked Scotland, become known as Scotio Malii, the hammer of the Scots. This madman attacked the town of Berwick-upon-Tweed, which was undefended by soldiers, and one of the worst atrocities ever committed on these islands. He killed more than 4,000 people, practically the whole population, in 2 days. Men, women, children. It doesn't matter to Edward as long as he creates terror, which he did. The nobles and Balliol tried to fight him. They were defeated. Balliol was taken to London, and the nobles of Scotland swore allegiance to Edward of England. Now, that was only a year before this great battle, so what happened? William Wallace happened. Have you heard of him?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
A year before this battle, boys, nobody in this country knew William Wallace's name. But they know who he is now. William Wallace, the second son of his minor family, studied to be a priest, but for a man studying to be a priest, he was a rather violent temperament. Got in trouble fighting with English soldiers, and he was to be arrested by the Sheriff of Lanark, Stirling, who was afraid of Wallace, so determined he would burn down Wallace's house in the night to kill him. But he didn't kill Wallace, he killed Wallace's wife Marion. She ran out of the house when it was on fire, but they threw her back in again and locked the door on her. William Wallace took his revenge. He killed the Sheriff of Lanark. Now he's an outlaw, eh? Now he's an outlaw. Aye, and a traitor to the English, but to the people of Scotland. This man became a legend overnight. Men of Scotland rose to fight them in the hundreds. We fought in the south and in the north. Sir Andrew Murray did the same. When Edward of England heard about this, he sent the most powerful army in Europe down there to Stirling under the control of the Earl of Surrey. The Scottish army came from the north through these hills to here. This very place where you are now, this is the Abbey Craig. It always has been, long before this battle was fought. You can see everything from up here. You can see the English army across the river. I've never seen so many men in my life. Thousands of them. Thousands. And colours. I didn't realise there was that many colours under the sun. Other banners, flags and pennants, tents, marquees, huge pavilions, men on armoured war horses. I'm not the cleverest man in the world, my wee queen. I'll tell you something I can do, I can count. And there was a lot more of them than us. I've been fighting for a long time. I didn't walk 60 miles to stand up here and count Englishmen. I'm not here to count them, I'm here to kill them. Now look at it this way, boys. The more Englishmen there are down there, the more you'll get to kill. I say we count them after the battle. I'll die on my feet. I'm not living on my knees. Well, they sent negotiators to talk to Wallace. They offer him terms. That's what it's done. They offer him money. They offer him land, titles. To get his battle, get his army off the field. But Wallace refused. William Wallace could have walked away from this, a rich man. Nobody would have thought the worse of him. But he refuses. You go back to Surrey. You tell Surrey to keep his land and his money and his titles. I'm not here to talk. I'm here to fight and defend my country. Let them come when they like. I fight for Wallace because he doesn't compromise. He can't buy his loyalty. 2 days later we had to fight. Down there there's a big bow in the river, and across the middle was a bridge, a wooden bridge. Key to the battle. The English are massed on the other side, and they start making mistakes. They were told to be careful, to take horses further down the river and cross at Kildean's Ford onto firm ground, because the ground on the other side was a marshland, difficult for horses if you don't know what you're doing. 450 heavy horse they had. They refused. Because the second in command was, well, he wasn't that great a commander, he was a bit of an idiot. Hugo de Cressingham. He says this: "My lord, sorry, don't divide the army, give me the horses. I'll take the horses across the bridge and I'll trample that rabble down there into the dust." And so, we're going to bring heavy horses. Started bringing the horses across. This was the best army in Europe, remember? Knights of Royal England were the pro as the van. But as they started to come across, they sunk into the marshes. And they kept driving them on because they think we'll run, but not today because we stand our ground. Wallace's plan is simple. Let enough men across. Let the horses across. Then we'll hold them against the river with long spearmen. They'll be stuck in the marshes. They're useless. The rest of us will take the bridge. We take the bridge. We divide their army. So let's take the bridge. So we charged in towards Stirling Bridge. We hit it like a storm. Wallace cutting his way towards the bridge with his great battle sword, killed Hugo de Cressingham with one blow. Hundreds of men down there, up to their knees in mud, trying to stay alive. You have to stay on your feet, because if you don't stay on your feet, you're not getting up again. Well, I stayed on my feet. Then all of a sudden, amongst all the screaming and shouting, the English lines broke. They started running towards the bridge to try and retreat, but they ran into men coming off the bridge. Confusion and chaos. Men fell into the river, were dragged to the bottom by the weight of their own armour. And all of a sudden, in amongst the screaming and dying, the bridge gave way. The bridge gave way and collapsed into the River Forth. The English on the far side couldn't cross, and the many English left on our side, well, we won't be seeing England again because they're all dead. Brave men, mind. And we won the Battle of Stirling Bridge. Right enough. The rest of them panicked when they saw that and started to run towards the hills, but they'll not get far. Aye, we won the battle right enough. Outnumbered we were and outclassed. And no outfought, eh? When are they going to learn that a man fighting for his own country fights a lot harder than a man trying to take it off him? Andrew Murray lay dying, but Wallace was alive. What will they do with him now? Well, all the nobles who swore allegiance to Edward of England now swear allegiance to Wallace. They've made him the guardian of Scotland. Sir William Wallace of Elderslie. But now that he's guardian, they say you must be more politic, Wallace. We must negotiate. With whom? Who would you like me to negotiate with? Edward of England? I don't think so. I don't remember he negotiated with us when he invaded our country, so I'll be negotiating with him when I invade his. We will take the north of England. Aye, re-establish and strengthen the border, and we'll teach these people a lesson they'll not forget. So we attacked the north of England and took it to fire and sword, because that's what they did to us. That doesn't make it right. I know that, but this isn't about right. This is about war. But we can't stay in England. We'll have to come home and hope they'll leave us alone, but that'll not happen because Edward will not let this go in Hunter. He'll be back, you mark my word. And the nobles of Scotland will not stand with Wallace because they've got too much to lose, my friends. William Wallace will fight because that's what he does best. And if there's any reassurance to you, so will I. And Edward of England comes back across that border. I'll be ready for him. You have my word on this. I'll be ready for him. Ladies and gentlemen, smaller ladies and gentlemen, such well-behaved children, thank you very much for your time. Edward of England returned the following year in 1298 with an army of 17,000 from France, English and Welsh mercenaries. He advanced up through Scotland. The Scottish army deliberately retreated, threw them further forward. The ground that they didn't hold, the ground they couldn't hold, they burned the crops and they killed the animals that they didn't need. The English couldn't find any food. As they go further north, they were less and less keen to fight. They got to Falkirk, where the Scots wanted them, about 15 miles to the south of here. Although outnumbered 3-1, the Scots decided to fight. They were in better condition. Never judge an army by how many men's in it. But the nobles of Scotland withdrew their horses. This is key, because horses can deal with archers. Men on foot cannot. The Welsh archers were there in their hundreds. A good Welsh archer can keep 8 arrows a minute in the air, accurately. So the Scottish army was easily dispatched. Wallace escaped for 7 years. He couldn't be captured. In 1305 he was betrayed by John Menteith. He was taken to London, found guilty of treason, and on the 23rd of August, which is not long past, he was hung, drawn, quartered and beheaded outside St Bartholomew's Church in West Smithfield in London. His head was stuck in a spike looking north on London Bridge. The remaining parts of his body were distributed to Perth, Stirling, Newcastle and Berwick-upon-Tweed, displayed in public as a traitor. That was in 1305. The foundation stone of this magnificent monument was laid in 1861. 556 years after his death, more than half a millennium. That shows me anyway how long this man's remained in the consciousness of this nation. Anyway, my friends, I hope that was somewhat informative. I hope it wasn't too long-winded. Braveheart takes 3.5 hours. So, it's not no bad. If you have any questions, keep coming and speak. If you wish to take any photographs, didn't they get dressed up for nothing, girls?